We talk every single day. To the people we love, to colleagues, to strangers, to ourselves. Yet so often those conversations leave us feeling a little frustrated, a little misunderstood, or a little further apart than we'd like. Maybe you've said something small and watched it spiral into an argument you never wanted. Maybe you've swallowed words you really needed to say because you were afraid they'd start a fight. Maybe you've walked away from a talk feeling heavier, lonelier, or just tired, wondering why connecting sometimes feels so hard. You're not the only one. That quiet gap between what we mean and what the other person hears happens to almost everyone. The good news is that gap can become much smaller. Not by learning complicated rules or becoming someone you're not, but by making a few gentle, intentional changes in how we listen, how we choose our words, and how we show up in conversations. This book is about exactly that. Simple, kind habits that help you say more of what truly matters and argue so much less. Better communication isn't about winning every conversation. It's about feeling closer to the people who matter, expressing yourself honestly, and walking away from most talks feeling lighter instead of heavier. You already care. You already want to connect. This book is simply here to help you do it a little more clearly, a little more kindly, and a lot more often. Let's begin together. Chapter 1. Why Communication Matters So Much. Have you ever said something simple, only to watch the other person get upset or shut down? It happens to everyone. One moment you're sharing an idea, the next you're in the middle of an argument you never saw coming. Those moments can leave us feeling confused, frustrated, or even a bit guilty. The truth is, most of these clashes aren't really about the topic itself. They're about how we communicate. This book is all about making conversations easier and more enjoyable. The big aim is straightforward: say more of what truly matters and argue a lot less. When we get better at this, relationships feel warmer, misunderstandings drop, and even everyday chats become more pleasant. You don't need to be a smooth talker or have a big vocabulary. Small changes in how you listen, choose words, and show care can make a huge difference. Picture this. You come home tired after a long day and say to your partner, "Everything went wrong today." If they reply with, "It can't be that bad," or "You're always complaining," you probably feel dismissed. The conversation might quickly turn sharp. But if they say instead, "That sounds rough. Tell me what happened," something different occurs. You feel seen. You relax. The talk stays calm and kind. No fight. Just connection. The difference between those two responses is tiny in words but massive in feeling. One response builds a bridge. The other puts up a wall. Most communication problems come down to moments like that. Small choices that either bring people closer or push them apart. So why do so many conversations go wrong? One common reason is that we assume others see things the way we do. We think, "This makes perfect sense to me, so it should to them too." But everyone carries their own experiences, moods, and worries. What feels clear and harmless to you might sound critical or uncaring to someone else. Another reason is speed. Life moves fast. We speak quickly, interrupt to make our point, or fire off a text without thinking. We want to be understood so badly that we forget to first understand the other person. Listening gets skipped, and when listening is missing, people stop feeling safe to open up. Emotions play a big part too. When we are upset, stressed, or hurt, our voice gets tighter, our words get shorter, and our face shows tension. The other person feels that energy right away, even before the sentence ends. They react to how we are saying it more than what we are saying. Then we react to their reaction, and suddenly a small comment becomes a big argument. The hopeful part is this: none of these habits are fixed forever. We can pause before we speak. We can pick gentler words. We can listen a little longer. We can notice our own feelings and give ourselves a breath before responding. These are learnable skills. With a bit of practice, they become more natural. This book will walk you through those skills one step at a time. We'll start with the basics: how to really hear what someone is saying, how to choose words that feel supportive instead of attacking, and how to pay attention to tone and body language, yours and theirs. Later chapters will cover real-life situations, like disagreeing without fighting, giving feedback that helps rather than hurts, asking for what you need in a clear way, and repairing things after a misunderstanding with a good apology. But it all starts with one key idea. Communication is not just about what comes out of your mouth. It's about what the other person hears and feels. When you care about their experience as much as your own message, conversations change for the better. Think about the people you talk to every day, your family, friends, co-workers, neighbors. Imagine if most of those interactions felt easier and kinder. Fewer tense silences. More smiles. More trust. That kind of change doesn't require you to become someone different. It just means using what you already have, your natural care, your wish to connect, in a more thoughtful way. Every time you choose to listen fully, speak softly, or check how the other person is feeling, you're building a better habit. The results often show up quickly. People start opening up more. Arguments fade faster. Relationships grow stronger. Take a quiet moment now to think about one recent conversation that didn't go smoothly. What was said? How do you think the other person felt? Don't judge yourself, just notice. That gentle awareness is where improvement begins. Chapter 2. The Power of Listening. Why hearing someone fully changes everything. Most people think good communication starts with speaking well. They work on finding the right words, sounding confident, or making their point clear. But the real magic usually begins somewhere quieter, when we stop talking and truly listen. Listening is not the same as hearing. Hearing is automatic. Sound waves hit your ears and your brain notices. Listening is active. It means choosing to give someone your full attention, setting aside your own thoughts for a moment, and letting their words land. When you listen that way, something powerful happens. The other person feels safe. They feel valued. And because they feel those things, they open up more, share more honestly, and trust you more deeply. Think about the last time someone really listened to you. Maybe you were upset about work, or worried about a family issue. They didn't jump in with advice right away. They didn't say, "Oh, I've been through worse," or "You should just do this." They just sat with you. They nodded. They asked gentle questions like, "What was that like for you?" Or "How did that make you feel?" In those moments, you probably felt lighter. The problem didn't disappear, but the weight of carrying it alone did. That feeling is what full listening creates. It builds connection faster than any clever reply ever could. So why don't we do it more often? One reason is that our minds are busy. We are thinking about what we want to say next. We are planning our response, defending our position, or already deciding whether the other person is right or wrong. While they're still speaking, we are halfway through our own speech in our head. That split attention shows. Our eyes wander. We nod too quickly. We interrupt with "yeah," but the speaker senses it instantly and pulls back. Another reason is discomfort. When someone shares something emotional, anger, sadness, fear, our first instinct is often to fix it. We want to offer solutions because staying with the feeling feels hard. But most people don't need fixing in that moment. They need to be heard. When we rush to solve, we accidentally send the message, "Your feelings are too much for me to sit with." That hurts more than silence ever could. The good news is that real listening is a skill you can practice every day, and it doesn't take long to see results. Here are a few simple ways to start listening better right now. First, give your full presence. Put the phone down. Turn your body toward the person. Look at them, not staring, just soft eye contact. These small signals say, "You have my attention. Nothing else matters right now." Second, stay quiet until they finish. Resist the urge to interrupt, even if you disagree strongly. Let them complete their thought. Often the most important part comes at the end, after they've worked up the courage to say it. Third, reflect back what you heard. This is called reflective listening, and it's surprisingly powerful. You don't have to agree, You just repeat the heart of what they said in your own words. For example, I hear you saying that you felt ignored when I kept checking my messages during dinner. Or, it sounds like you're really frustrated because the project keeps changing and no one is explaining why. When you do this, two things happen. First, the speaker knows you actually understood. Second, they often soften. They feel seen, so they don't need to keep repeating themselves louder. Fourth, ask open questions that show curiosity instead of judgment. Instead of "Why did you do that?" try "What led you to make that choice?" Instead of "Are you overreacting?" try "What part of this feels the hardest for you?" These small shifts keep the conversation flowing instead of shutting it down. Fifth, notice your own reactions and pause. If you feel defensive, annoyed, or eager to jump in, take one slow breath. That tiny pause gives you space to choose listening over reacting. You might worry that listening too much means you never get to share your side. That's a fair concern. But when you listen first and fully, the other person usually becomes much more willing to hear you later. They feel respected, so they return the respect. It's not about who talks more, it's about who feels understood. Try this experiment today. The next time someone starts sharing something important, decide to listen for 1 full minute without planning your response. Just be there. Notice how they relax, how their words slow down, how their shoulders drop. You'll probably see the change in their face before they even finish speaking. Listening like this doesn't make you weak or passive. It makes you strong. It shows confidence that your own thoughts can wait. It shows care that their experience matters. And it almost always lowers tension. Arguments shrink when both people feel heard. Misunderstandings clear up when we stop assuming and start understanding. The rest of this book builds on this foundation. Once you learn to listen well, the other skills, choosing better words, handling disagreements, giving feedback, become easier and more natural. Listening is the soil where everything else grows. So take a moment. Think of one person in your life who needs your ears more than your advice right now. Imagine giving them that gift today. No fixing, no interrupting, just pure attention. You might be surprised how much closer you feel afterward. Chapter 3. Choosing words that connect. Simple ways to speak without causing defensiveness. Words are like keys. The right ones open doors and let understanding flow in. The wrong ones, even if they're true, can slam doors shut and make people pull back. Once someone feels attacked or judged, their ears close and their defenses go up. The conversation stops being about connection and starts being about winning or surviving. The goal isn't to avoid every tough topic. It's to talk about hard things in a way that keeps both people feeling respected. When you do that, even disagreements can end with both sides feeling heard instead of hurt. Let's look at what usually triggers defensiveness. Certain words and patterns almost always make people tense up. Here are the most common ones. You always, or you never. These feel like permanent labels. They make the other person think, that's not fair, I'm not like that all the time. You should, this sounds like a command. It puts the listener in the position of being wrong or not good enough. Why did you? Especially when said with frustration, it often feels like blame in disguise. The tone says, you messed up, explain yourself. Starting with but, even after a compliment, but wipes out everything before it. You did a great job, but you missed this part lands mostly as criticism. Absolute words like ridiculous, stupid, wrong, or selfish. These judge the person, not just the action. The listener feels personally attacked. The good news? You can replace those patterns with softer, more connecting ones. The changes are small, but the difference in how people respond is huge. Here are some simple swaps you can start using today. Instead of "you always interrupt me," try, "I feel like I don't get to finish my thoughts sometimes, and it's hard for me." Instead of "you should have told me earlier," try, "I wish I'd known sooner so I could have helped." Next time, can we share things like that right away? Instead of "why didn't you just ask for help," try, "what made it tough to ask for help when you needed it?" Instead of "That's ridiculous," try, "I see it differently. Can you help me understand why it feels that way to you?" Instead of "But you promised," try, "I was really counting on that happening, so I felt disappointed when it didn't. What got in the way?" Notice what these replacements do. They shift from accusing to sharing. They use "I" statements to talk about your feelings instead of pointing fingers with "you." They ask questions that invite explanation instead of demanding justification. They stay curious rather than certain. Another powerful tool is adding a positive frame first. Before bringing up something difficult, say something true and kind. Example: "I really appreciate how hard you've been working on this. I've noticed the deadlines are slipping a bit, and I'm worried about how we'll finish on time. Can we talk about what's making it hard?" That little positive start lowers defenses. It reminds the person that you value them, so they're more open to hearing the rest. You can also soften requests or feedback with phrases like these. "Would it be okay if?" "I'd love it if." "It would help me a lot if." "Could we try?" These make the other person feel like they have a choice instead of being ordered around. One more tip: slow down your speech just a little. When we are upset, our words speed up and get sharper. Speaking more slowly and gently gives your message a calmer tone. The same words said slowly often land much softer. Does this mean you have to walk on eggshells forever? No. It means you care enough about the relationship to choose words that protect the connection while still being honest. You can be clear and kind at the same time. In fact, kindness usually makes clarity land better. Practice this in low-stakes moments first. The next time you're ordering coffee or chatting with a coworker, notice your words. Try one small change. Turn a "you" statement into an "I" statement, or add a gentle opener. Watch how the other person reacts. You'll often see their shoulders relax, their face soften, their answers become more open. Over time, these habits become natural. People start to feel safe around you. They share more. They argue less. They come to you when things are hard because they know you'll listen without jumping to judgment. Choosing words that connect isn't about being perfect. It's about being thoughtful. It's remembering that the person in front of you has feelings just like you do. When you speak in a way that honors those feelings, conversations stop feeling like battles and start feeling like teamwork. Chapter 4: Mastering Tone and Body Language. The hidden messages that speak loudest. Words only carry part of the message. The rest, the bigger part, comes from how you say them and what your body does while you speak. Studies show that in face-to-face conversations, tone of voice and body language often matter more than the actual words. People may forget exactly what you said, but they almost always remember how you made them feel. That feeling comes mostly from tone, facial expression, posture, and gestures. When your words say one thing but your tone or body says another, confusion or hurt follows. Someone can tell you, "I'm fine," but if their voice cracks and their arms are crossed tightly, you know they're not fine at all. The opposite happens too. You might say something kind, but if your voice is sharp or your eyes are rolling, the kindness gets lost. The listener trusts the nonverbal signals more than the words. Tone is the music behind your message. It includes pitch, speed, volume, and rhythm. A calm, steady tone feels safe and warm. A fast, loud, rising tone feels angry or urgent, even if the words are neutral. A flat, quiet tone can sound bored or distant. Small shifts in tone change everything. Body language works the same way. Open posture, shoulders relaxed, arms uncrossed, facing the person, says "I'm here with you." Closed posture, arms folded, body turned away, leaning back, says "I'm protecting myself" or "I don't want to be close." Eye contact shows interest and care, but staring too hard feels intense. Looking away too much feels dismissive. Here's the important part. You can't hide these signals completely. Even when you try to sound neutral, stress or frustration leaks through. The good news is you can learn to notice and adjust them so your nonverbal message matches your words. Let's look at practical ways to make your tone and body language work for connection instead of against it. Start with awareness. The next time you're talking, especially if the topic feels a little tense, pause and check in with yourself. Ask, how fast am I speaking? Is my voice getting louder? Are my shoulders up by my ears? Is my face tight? Just noticing these things gives you a chance to soften them before you continue. Slow your speech slightly. When we feel strongly, we speed up without realizing it. Speaking a little slower makes you sound calmer and more in control. It also gives the other person time to process what you're saying. A slower pace often lowers tension on both sides. Lower your volume just a notch. Shouting isn't always about being loud. It can be a slightly raised voice that feels sharp. Dropping your volume a bit invites the listener in instead of pushing them away. Whispering important feelings can sometimes work wonders because it feels intimate and gentle. Breathe before you respond. A single slow breath does two things. It calms your nervous system so your voice steadies, and it creates a tiny pause that shows you're thinking instead of reacting. That pause alone can prevent many arguments. For body language, try these small, powerful adjustments. Face the person squarely. Even a slight turn of your shoulders away can signal disinterest. Turn toward them fully. It says, "You matter to me right now." Keep your hands visible and relaxed. Fists, crossed arms, or pointing fingers feel defensive or aggressive. Open palms or hands resting gently on the table feel open and calm. Soften your face. A slight smile, even a small one, around the eyes can make you seem approachable. If the topic is serious, aim for a neutral but kind expression instead of a frown or tight jaw. Nod slowly while listening. A gentle nod shows "I'm following you" and encourages the speaker to keep going. Quick, tiny nods can feel impatient. Lean in just a little. Leaning slightly forward during important moments shows engagement. Leaning back too far can feel like pulling away. Mirror gently. When someone is calm, match that energy a bit. When they're excited, let a little of that show in your face. This natural mirroring builds rapport without copying exactly. These aren't tricks. They're ways to let your body and voice show the respect and care you already feel inside. When your nonverbal signals match your words, trust grows fast. People stop second-guessing what you really mean. They relax. Conversations flow more easily. One quick test you can try today. Record yourself for a minute while talking about something mildly emotional, like a frustrating day or something you're excited about. Then listen back. Notice the tone. Watch your gestures if you can record video. You'll probably spot things you never noticed in the moment. That awareness is the starting point for change. Over time, these adjustments become second nature. You won't have to think about them as much. Your voice will naturally soften when you want to connect. Your body will naturally open when you want to listen. People will sense the difference even if they can't name it. They'll say things like, "You're so easy to talk to," or "I feel better after we chat." Mastering tone and body language isn't about faking anything. It's about making sure the message you intend is the one that lands. When words, tone, and body all point in the same direction, toward understanding and care, arguments shrink and closeness grows. Chapter 5. Handling disagreements without turning them into fights. Disagreements are normal. They happen in every close relationship, every team, every family. Two people can see the same situation in completely different ways, and that's okay. The problem isn't the disagreement itself, it's what we do with it. When we handle differences with care, they can actually bring us closer. When we let them spiral, they create distance, resentment, or even long-lasting hurt. The good news is you don't have to agree on everything to stay connected. You just need to disagree in a way that keeps respect and understanding alive. The goal isn't to win the argument. The goal is to understand each other better and find a way forward that feels fair to both sides. Most fights start small. A comment feels sharp. A tone sounds critical. One person feels dismissed, so they push back harder. The other feels attacked, so they defend stronger. Soon the original issue is buried under layers of hurt feelings, raised voices, and old frustrations that get dragged in. What began as "I'd like us to leave earlier next time" turns into "you never care about my time." Here are some simple steps that help keep disagreements from becoming fights. First, pause before you respond. That one breath, sometimes just 2 or 3 seconds, can stop a reaction from turning into an explosion. In that pause, ask yourself, am I upset because of what was just said, or is something older getting triggered? Naming the feeling to yourself, "I'm feeling ignored right now," helps you speak from clarity instead of heat. Second, state your feelings instead of blaming. Use I sentences that share your experience rather than pointing fingers. Instead of, "You're being so selfish," try, "I feel really frustrated when plans change last minute because I was counting on them." The "I feel" part keeps the focus on your inner world. It's harder to argue with someone's feelings than with an accusation. Third, stay with the current issue. It's tempting to bring up past examples. "This is just like last month when you," but that turns one problem into 10. Stick to what's happening now. If older hurts keep coming up, that's a sign to have a separate, calmer conversation about those later. Fourth, listen to understand, not to reply. When the other person is speaking, your only job in that moment is to hear them. Don't prepare your comeback while they talk. When they finish, reflect back what you heard. "So it sounds like you felt rushed and didn't have time to think it through. Did I get that right?" When someone feels truly understood, they often soften. They become more open to hearing your side too. Fifth, look for the need underneath the complaint. Most disagreements are about unmet needs, feeling respected, safe, valued, heard, or considered. If your partner says, "You're always on your phone," the real need might be, "I want to feel like I matter when we are together." If you can name and respond to the need, the argument loses steam. Example, "I hear that you want more of my attention when we are spending time together. I want that too. Let's figure out how to make phone-free time work for both of us." Sixth, take a break if things heat up. There's no rule that says you have to solve everything in one conversation. If voices rise or hearts race, say something like, "I really want to understand you, but I'm feeling too worked up right now to think clearly. Can we pause and come back to this in 20 minutes? A short break lets emotions settle. Come back when you're both calmer, and you'll almost always find the talk goes better. Seventh, end with something positive. Even if you don't fully agree, close the conversation by acknowledging the other person's effort or care. "Thanks for talking this through with me. I know it wasn't easy." Or, "I'm glad we can figure things out together." Those small endings leave both of you feeling respected instead of defeated. You won't get this perfect every time. That's normal. The key is noticing when things start to escalate and choosing one small shift, pausing, softening your words, listening longer. Each time you do, you train your brain and your relationship to handle differences more gently. Over weeks and months, these habits change the atmosphere. Disagreements still happen, but they don't leave the same sting. People feel safer saying what's on their mind because they know it won't turn into a battle. Trust grows. Closeness grows. Think of the last disagreement you had that turned into a fight. What was the moment it shifted from discussion to argument? What might have changed if you'd paused, listened, or spoken from feelings instead of blame? No need to judge, just notice. That awareness is how you get better next time. Chapter 6. Giving feedback that helps instead of hurting. Feedback is one of the most powerful gifts you can give someone. Done well, it helps people grow, fix mistakes, and feel more confident. Done poorly, it leaves them feeling small, defensive, or discouraged. The difference usually comes down to how the feedback is delivered, not just what you say, but when, how, and why you say it. Most people don't mind hearing what they could do better if they believe you're on their side. The moment they feel judged, attacked, or like you're trying to prove them wrong, the helpful part gets lost. They stop listening to the message and start protecting themselves instead. The aim here is simple. Share observations in a way that feels supportive rather than critical. When feedback lands as care instead of criticism, people are far more likely to take it in, try the change, and even thank you for it. Let's look at what usually makes feedback hurt. Common patterns include timing it when the person is already stressed, tired, or in public. Mixing feedback with personal judgment, "You're so careless." Focusing only on what's wrong without mentioning what's right. Delivering it as a surprise attack instead of a conversation. Using vague words like "you need to do better" that leave the person guessing. These approaches make people feel blamed rather than guided. But there's a better way, a clear, kind structure that almost always works. One of the most effective ways to give helpful feedback is to follow this gentle pattern. Start with something positive and specific. Find something genuine you appreciate about their effort, attitude, or result. This sets a warm tone and reminds them you see their strengths. Example: "I really appreciate how much thought you put into this report." The structure is clear and easy to follow. Share the observation calmly and factually. Stick to what you saw or experienced without adding judgment. Use "I noticed" or "it seemed like" instead of "you always." Example: "I noticed the deadline was missed by a couple of days, and that created some extra pressure for the team." Explain the impact, without blame. Help them understand why it matters. Focus on the effect rather than their character. Example: "When the deadline shifts, it affects the rest of the schedule and makes it harder for everyone to plan." Offer a suggestion or ask for their thoughts. Turn it into teamwork by inviting their ideas. This shows respect for their perspective. Example: "Next time, would it help to check in midway so we can catch any roadblocks early? What do you think might make deadlines easier to meet?" End with encouragement. Reaffirm your belief in them. Example: "I know you've got this. I've seen how capable you are. Let's figure out what works best together." This structure, positive start, clear observation, impact, suggestion, encouragement, keeps the conversation forward-looking instead of backward blaming. It feels like coaching rather than correcting. Another helpful tip is to ask for permission first. A quick "is now a good time to share some thoughts about the project" shows respect for their headspace. Most people say yes, and even if they say no, you've already built goodwill by checking. Give feedback in private whenever possible. Public correction almost always adds shame, even if you don't mean it that way. A quiet one-on-one chat feels safer and more respectful. If the feedback is about something emotional or sensitive, like how someone's tone came across, use even softer language. Example: "I felt a bit hurt when the comment landed that way. I might have misread it, but I wanted to mention how it felt to me." This keeps it about your experience rather than their flaw. One last thing: check your own motive before you speak. Ask yourself, am I saying this to help them, or to feel better myself? Or am I trying to prove a point? If the answer leans toward the second, pause. Helpful feedback comes from care, not from needing to be right. Practice this in small moments first. The next time you notice something that could be improved, whether at home, at work, or with a friend, try the structure. Start positive, stay factual, explain impact, invite ideas, end encouraging. Watch how differently the other person receives it. Their face often softens. They ask questions instead of arguing. They even come up with solutions you hadn't thought of. When feedback feels helpful instead of hurtful, relationships deepen. People start seeking your input because they trust it will lift them up, not tear them down. You become someone they can count on for honest, kind guidance. Chapter 7. Asking for what you need clearly and kindly. One of the hardest things to do in any relationship is ask for what you need. We worry about sounding demanding. We fear rejection. We don't want to seem needy or selfish. So instead of asking directly, we hint, we drop clues, we get quiet and hope the other person guesses. Most of the time, they don't. Then we feel disappointed, and resentment builds quietly. Clear, kind requests change that pattern. When you ask openly and gently, you give the other person a real chance to meet your need. You also show respect for their feelings and their ability to choose. The result is often more understanding, more cooperation, and far less frustration on both sides. Why do so many requests go wrong? Here are the usual culprits. We wait until we are already upset, so the ask comes out sharp or emotional. We use vague hints instead of direct words. Wouldn't it be nice if? We mix the request with blame or criticism. You never help with the dishes. We make it sound like an order instead of a choice. You have to do this. These approaches make the other person feel attacked or trapped. They respond with defensiveness or avoidance, and the need still goes unmet. A better way exists. You can ask for what matters to you in a way that feels honest, respectful, and warm. Here's a simple structure that works in almost any situation. Start with appreciation or context, when it fits naturally. A small positive opener sets a kind tone. Example: I really appreciate how much you've been handling lately. Name your need clearly using I statements. Be specific about what you want, not what they're doing wrong. Example: I need a little more quiet time in the evenings to recharge after a long day. Make the request direct but gentle. Use words like would you be willing, could we, or it would help me a lot if. These invite instead of demand. Example: would you be willing to keep the TV volume lower after 8 p.m. so I can relax? Offer understanding for their side. Show you've thought about how it affects them. Example: I know you like to unwind with shows too, so maybe we can find a time that works for both of us. Express gratitude in advance or afterward. Thank you for listening, or I'd really appreciate it, makes the ask feel collaborative. Putting it together: I've been feeling really tired lately, and I think some quieter evenings would help me recharge. Would you be willing to keep the TV lower after dinner? I know you enjoy your shows, so let's figure out what feels good for both of us. Thanks for hearing me out. That version is clear, kind, and leaves room for discussion. The other person doesn't feel cornered, they feel included. Here are more everyday examples. Instead of, you never pick up your stuff, try, it would really help me feel calmer when the living room is tidy. Would you be willing to put your things away in the evening? I'd appreciate it so much. Instead of, can you just do it? Try, I'm struggling to finish this on my own. Could you help me with the research part? It would make a big difference to me. Instead of hinting, I wish someone would take the trash out. Try, the trash needs to go out tonight. Would you mind handling it? I'd be grateful. The key difference is ownership. You're owning your need, I need, it would help me, instead of blaming them for not meeting it. You're inviting them into the solution instead of accusing them of the problem. One important note: sometimes people say no. That's okay. A kind request doesn't guarantee a yes. It guarantees you've been honest and respectful. If the answer is no, you can ask follow-up questions like what would make it easier for you? Or is there another way we could meet this need? That keeps the conversation open instead of closing it. Another tip: practice asking in low-stakes moments first. Ask a coworker for a quick favor. Ask a friend to change plans slightly. Ask family for a small adjustment. Each time you ask clearly and kindly, you build confidence. The more you do it, the less scary it feels. When you get better at asking this way, something wonderful happens. People start saying yes more often, not because they feel forced, but because they feel valued. They want to help because they know your request comes from care, not complaint. Needs get met faster. Misunderstandings drop. Relationships feel lighter. Think of one thing you've been needing lately: more help, more time, more attention, more quiet, more support. Imagine asking for it using these gentle steps. Picture their face softening as they hear you. Picture yourself feeling heard and respected, no matter the answer. Chapter 8. Repairing after a misunderstanding, the art of a good apology. Misunderstandings happen. Even when we try our best, words get twisted, intentions get misread, or feelings get hurt without anyone meaning to cause pain. The moment we realize we've contributed to that hurt, whether through a sharp tone, a careless comment, or a missed cue, the next step matters more than the mistake itself. A sincere apology can heal a crack before it becomes a break. A good apology isn't about saying sorry quickly to make the tension disappear. It's about showing the other person that you see their pain, you take responsibility, and you care enough to make things right. When done well, it restores trust, softens hurt, and often makes the relationship stronger than it was before. So what separates a meaningful apology from one that falls flat? Here are the elements that make the biggest difference. First, own your part without excuses. Start with clear responsibility. Avoid phrases like "I'm sorry if you felt," or "I'm sorry, but you." These shift the focus onto the other person's reaction instead of your actions. Better, "I'm sorry I raised my voice earlier. That wasn't okay." Or, "I'm sorry I didn't listen fully when you were explaining. I cut you off, and that was unfair." Second, name the impact. Show you understand how your words or actions affected them. This is where empathy shines. Example, "I can see how that made you feel dismissed, and I hate that I left you feeling that way." Or, "I know I broke your trust when I forgot to follow through, and I understand why you're disappointed." Third, express genuine regret. Let your tone and words carry real feeling. A flat sorry doesn't land the same way as "I'm truly sorry. I feel awful about hurting you." The sincerity comes through in your voice, your eyes, and the absence of defensiveness. Fourth, make it right if possible. Offer a way to repair or prevent the same thing in the future. Examples. "I'd like to make it up to you. Can we sit down tonight and talk it through properly? Next time I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'll take a moment before I respond so I don't snap. I'll work on that. Let me fix the mistake I made with the plans. I'll call them today and sort it out." Fifth, give them space to respond. After you apologize, pause. Don't rush to fill the silence or ask for instant forgiveness. Let them share how they feel. Sometimes they need to say more before they can accept the apology. Listening quietly in that moment is part of the repair. A full example of putting it together. "I'm really sorry for brushing off your concern about the weekend plans. I was focused on my own stress and didn't take your feelings seriously. I can see how that made you feel unimportant, and I hate that I did that. You matter to me, and I regret hurting you. I'd like to hear how you're feeling now, and I want to make sure we plan things in a way that works for both of us. Thank you for letting me know it bothered you." That kind of apology feels honest. It doesn't dodge responsibility. It shows care, and it opens the door for healing. A few things to avoid. Over-apologizing for everything. Constant sorry loses meaning and can make the other person feel like they have to comfort you. Expecting instant forgiveness. Some hurts take time to process, turning the apology into a debate. "But you did this too." Save other issues for another conversation. If you're not sure whether to apologize, ask yourself, did my actions cause hurt, even if I didn't intend it? If the answer is yes, a simple, sincere apology usually helps. It's better to say sorry and clear the air than to let resentment simmer. The beautiful thing about a good apology is how it changes both people. The person receiving it often feels seen and valued. The person giving it feels lighter, relieved of guilt and reconnected through honesty. Many strong relationships have been rebuilt on moments like these. Think of a recent misunderstanding where you might have played a part. You don't need to fix it right this second, but imagine offering a clear, kind apology. Picture their face softening. Picture the tension easing. That small act of courage can shift everything. You're not admitting weakness when you apologize well. You're showing strength. Strength to own your actions. Strength to care about someone else's heart. Strength to choose repair over pride. Chapter 9. Communicating in high-stress moments. Staying calm when it counts. Stress changes everything about how we communicate. Heart rate climbs. Breathing gets shallow. Thoughts race. In those moments, even small conversations can feel huge, and the risk of saying something sharp or shutting down completely goes way up. A raised voice, a clipped reply, or walking away without a word can leave lasting damage. Yet the same high-stress moment can also become a chance to show care, strength, and connection, if we can stay calm enough to choose our words and actions with intention. The truth is, no one stays perfectly calm under pressure all the time. The aim isn't perfection. It's progress. Noticing when stress is taking over and using simple tools to bring yourself back so you can speak and listen in a way that protects the relationship instead of harming it. High-stress moments come in many forms: an argument heating up, a tight deadline at work, a family crisis, bad news, or even everyday pressure like rushing out the door. In all of these, the body's stress response kicks in the same way, readying us to fight, flee, or freeze. That ancient wiring helped our ancestors survive, but today it often makes us snap at the people we love most or say things we later regret. Here are practical ways to stay grounded and communicate better when stress is high. First, notice the early signs in yourself. Tension in your jaw, tight shoulders, faster breathing, a rising voice, or feeling hot in the face. These are signals that your nervous system is revving up. The moment you spot one, you have a choice. Pause. That pause is your lifeline. Even 5 seconds can stop a reaction from becoming a regrettable outburst. Second, slow your breathing. A quick, simple tool is the 4-4-4 breath. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4. Do it once or twice. It tells your body we are not in danger, lowers your heart rate, and clears your mind just enough to think before you speak. You can do this quietly, others won't even notice. Third, lower your voice on purpose. When stress rises, volume often rises too. Forcefully speaking softer does 2 things. It calms your own nervous system, and it signals safety to the other person. A quieter tone invites them to lower theirs as well. Try it. The contrast alone can break the escalation cycle. Fourth, use a short anchor phrase to buy time. Have one ready for when you feel words about to spill out too fast. Examples. Give me a second to think. I want to get this right. Let me take a breath. This feels important. Let's slow down a bit. These phrases show you're trying to stay connected rather than react. They also give everyone a moment to reset. Fifth, shift to simple I statements that name your stress without blaming. Instead of, "You're making this worse." Try, "I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now and it's hard for me to think clearly." Naming your own state honestly often softens the other person. They see you're struggling too, not just attacking. Sixth, step away if you need to, but say it clearly. "I need a few minutes to calm down so I can talk this through properly. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Then actually return. Coming back shows commitment. Disappearing without explanation feels like abandonment. Seventh, after the storm passes, circle back. Once calm returns, revisit what happened. "I'm sorry I got sharp earlier. I was stressed and didn't handle it well. Can we talk about what came up?" That small repair keeps trust alive. These tools take practice, but they work. The more you use them, the faster your body learns to calm down. Over time, high-stress moments stop feeling like minefields. You start trusting yourself to stay steady even when everything feels urgent. Think of a recent time stress made communication hard. Maybe voices rose, maybe someone walked away, maybe silence grew heavy. What was the first sign stress was building in you? What might have changed if you'd noticed it and taken one slow breath? No need to judge, just notice. That noticing is the seed of change. You don't have to be unflappable. You just have to be willing to pause, breathe, and choose connection over reaction. In the heat of the moment, that choice matters more than any perfect sentence ever could. The people around you will feel the difference. They'll sense you're trying, even when it's hard. They'll feel safer opening up. And you'll feel stronger inside, calmer, more in control. more capable of handling whatever comes. One breath, one pause, one gentle word at a time. You're building the ability to communicate well even when it counts most. You're stronger than the stress. Keep going. Chapter 10. Navigating difficult conversations with family and close friends. Family and close friends hold a special place in our lives. The love is deep, the history is long, and the emotions run strong. That closeness makes everyday communication easier in many ways. We know each other's habits, tones, and triggers. But it also makes difficult conversations harder. A small comment can reopen old wounds. A disagreement can feel personal and permanent. When the stakes feel high because we care so much, words carry extra weight, and misunderstandings can linger for years if they aren't handled with care. The good news is that the same skills we've explored throughout this book, listening fully, choosing words that connect, softening tone, owning feelings, apologizing sincerely, work even more powerfully with the people closest to us. The difference is intention and patience. With family and close friends, we are not just fixing a moment, we are protecting something precious and long-lasting. Difficult conversations with loved ones usually fall into a few common categories: addressing old patterns that hurt, setting boundaries, talking about unmet needs, resolving recurring conflicts, or sharing hard truths during big life changes. No matter the topic, the approach stays the same: lead with love, stay honest, and protect the relationship while addressing the issue. Here are some gentle, practical ways to navigate these talks. First, choose the right time and place. Never start a heavy conversation when someone is rushing out the door, exhausted, or distracted. A quiet moment, maybe over tea, during a walk, or after the kids are in bed, makes a huge difference. Begin by saying something like, "I've been thinking about something that matters to me, and I'd like to share it when you have a calm moment. Is now okay? Or would later be better?" That small check-in shows respect for their state of mind and sets a collaborative tone. Second, start with love and appreciation. Remind them, and yourself, why the relationship matters before you bring up the hard part. Examples: "I love how close we are, and I want us to stay that way. You've always been there for me, and that means the world. I value our friendship so much, which is why I want to talk about this." These openers lower defenses. They remind everyone that the conversation comes from care, not criticism. Third, speak from your heart using I statements and focus on feelings rather than accusations. Instead of, "You're always so controlling with the family decisions." Try, "I sometimes feel unheard when decisions get made quickly, and I'd love for us to include each other's thoughts more." Instead of, "You never call unless you need something." Try, "I miss our regular catch-ups. I feel closer to you when we talk just to connect, not only when something comes up. I'd really like more of those moments." This keeps the focus on your experience rather than labeling them. Fourth, expect emotions, yours and theirs. Family conversations often stir up old feelings. Tears, raised voices, long silences, or even laughter can appear. Let them happen without rushing to fix or judge. If things heat up, use the tools from earlier chapters. Pause, breathe, lower your voice, or suggest a short break. "I can see this is bringing up a lot. Let's take a few minutes. I want to keep talking when we are both calmer." Fifth, listen with extra patience. People are more likely to share vulnerable truths with those they trust. Give them space to finish, even if it takes longer than you expect. Reflect back gently. "It sounds like you've been carrying that hurt for a long time. I didn't realize how much it affected you." Sixth, be ready to hear hard things about yourself. Loved ones sometimes point out patterns we don't see. If they share something painful, resist the urge to defend right away. Take it in. A simple "I hear you, and I'm going to think about that" buys time to process without shutting them down. Seventh, end with connection. Even if you don't solve everything in one talk, close the conversation on a note of care. "Thank you for being honest with me. I love you, and I'm glad we can talk about the hard stuff." Or, This wasn't easy, but I feel closer to you because we did it together. Some conversations may need more than one round. That's normal. Say, I'm glad we started this. Can we keep talking about it over the next few days? That shows commitment to the relationship, not just to being right. Finally, forgive yourself when things don't go perfectly. Family and close friends see us at our messiest. They also see us trying. A sincere effort, messy, emotional, imperfect, usually matters more than flawless words. Think of one difficult conversation you've been avoiding with someone close. Picture starting it gently, speaking from love, listening with an open heart. Imagine the relief of clearing the air, even if it's uncomfortable at first. That courage is a gift to both of you. Throughout this book, we've talked about saying more of what matters and arguing less. Nowhere is that more important than with the people who matter most. These conversations aren't always easy, but they are worth it. They deepen trust, heal old hurts, and make room for even stronger love. Chapter 11. Listening to yourself, the inner voice that shapes how we speak to others. We spend so much time paying attention to what others say and how they say it. We adjust our words, soften our tone, watch our body language, all to make sure we are communicating well. But there's one voice we often ignore in the middle of all this effort. Our own inner voice. The quiet thoughts, feelings, and beliefs running in the background of our mind have more power over our conversations than we usually realize. That inner voice is always talking. It might be encouraging, I can say this kindly. Critical, they'll never understand anyway. Anxious, if I speak up, they'll get mad. Or tired, I don't have the energy for this. Whatever it says, it shapes the words that eventually come out of your mouth. It colors your tone, tightens your body, or softens your face. Before you even speak to someone else, you've already had a whole conversation with yourself, and the other person feels the result. When your inner voice is harsh or fearful, your outer communication often follows. You might sound sharper than you intend, hold back what you really need to say, or react defensively without meaning to. On the other hand, when your inner voice is kind, calm, and honest with you, your words naturally carry more warmth, clarity, and courage. Listening to yourself doesn't mean getting lost in overthinking. It means pausing long enough to notice what's happening inside before you respond outside. That small pause can change everything. Here are simple ways to start tuning into your inner voice and let it support better conversations. First, notice what you're telling yourself in the moment. The next time you feel tension rising in a talk, maybe your stomach tightens or your chest feels heavy, ask quietly, what am I saying to myself right now? Common inner messages include, they're attacking me. I'm not good enough to explain this. This is going to turn into a fight. I always mess this up. Just naming the thought loosens its grip. You realize it's a story, not a fact. Second, gently question the story. You don't have to argue with yourself, just offer a kinder possibility. If your inner voice says, they don't care what I think, you can quietly reply inside, maybe they're upset too. Maybe they need to be heard first. If it says, I'll sound stupid, you can answer, it's okay if my words aren't perfect. What matters is being honest. These small inner shifts create space for calmer, clearer outer words. Third, check in with your feelings before you speak. Ask, what am I actually feeling right now? Hurt? Scared? Frustrated? Tired? Is this feeling about what just happened? Or is it connected to something older? When you name the emotion to yourself, I'm feeling really hurt, it loses some of its power to hijack your voice. You can then share that feeling honestly instead of letting it leak out as sarcasm or silence. Fourth, speak to yourself the way you'd speak to a good friend. If a friend told you they were nervous about a hard conversation, you'd probably say something supportive. You've got this. Just be honest and kind. You don't have to be perfect. Offer that same gentleness to yourself. A kinder inner voice almost always leads to kinder outer words. Fifth, take short moments of quiet during the day. Even 1 or 2 minutes of slow breathing or a quick walk can help you hear what's going on inside. The quieter the outer world, the clearer the inner one becomes. Over time, you'll get faster at noticing your own thoughts and feelings before they take over. When you listen to yourself with care, something wonderful happens. You stop reacting from old patterns or hidden fears. You respond from a calmer, more grounded place. Your words feel more authentic. Your tone feels steadier. People sense the difference, even if they can't name it. They feel like they're talking to the real you, not to your stress or your defenses. This inner listening is the foundation that makes all the other skills in this book work better. When you're at peace with your own voice, it's much easier to listen fully to others, choose connecting words, stay calm under pressure, and repair things when needed. Think about the last conversation that didn't go the way you hoped. What were you telling yourself before or during it? Was your inner voice pushing you to defend, withdraw, or attack? Imagine what might have changed if you'd paused and spoken to yourself with a little more kindness first. You don't need to silence your inner voice. You just need to befriend it. Listen to it gently, guide it toward truth and compassion, and let it become your quiet ally instead of a hidden critic. As you practice this, you'll notice your conversations becoming more natural, more honest, and more peaceful. You'll say more of what truly matters because you're no longer fighting an inner battle at the same time. This is the quiet work that makes all the other work easier. You're not just learning to communicate better with others, you're learning to communicate better with yourself. And that changes everything. Thank you for walking this path with me. May your inner voice grow kinder, your words grow clearer, and your connections grow warmer every day.